Shri Guru Shri Mata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupa Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha kalpatarubhyascha Prabha sindhubheva Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. So one of the glories of Bhagavad-Gīta in the Gita Mahatmya it is said that Sansar Sagaram Ghoram. This material existence is very, very fearful. It is Ghoram. And if one is interested to go beyond it, Tartum Ikshati Yo Naraha. Very difficult. Prabhupada says that unless and until one is awakened, one has awakened to come to realize that he is in a dangerous situation. Padam Padam Yad Vibadam Natesham. So what is the recourse? What is the solution? Gita Navam Samsadya. So this samsara ghoram, this is compared to an ocean. So how you can cross the ocean? With the help of a boat. And this is a very powerful boat. This boat is in the form of the instructions of teachings of Lord Shri Krishna given in Bhagavad-Gīta. Param yati sukhena sa. So not only one will be delivered, but one will come to the state of freedom from all material miseries. So we saw in the last session, the discussion was that Krishna is trying to enlighten Arjuna, is elevating Arjuna and enthusing Arjuna to perform duty. And Krishna gave the principle of na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. That of the non-existence there is no endurance, and of the eternal there is no change. So we discussed that how this material existence is completely surcharged with the imposition of asat. We identify ourselves with our body, which is asat. Our subtle faculties of mind and intelligence, ego, they are also asat. Every relationship that we have in this material world is based on our body. It is asat. So everything is surcharged with asat. So in this atmosphere of overwhelming asat, how to be able to come to the platform of sat? So that is through the teachings of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Absolute Truth. So to remove and revoke the asat in our existence, Krishna gave the teachings of Bhagavad-Gīta. And in the last verse that we discussed, where Krishna is summarizing to what he has spoken so far, he has given various visions of angle, how to understand the basic difference between the body and the soul. There are two things, the two aspects. There is a difference also, and there is a connection also. It is achintya. It is bheda and abheda. Everywhere it will exist. That is why we needed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to reconcile. The Jñānis, they are confused because they can only see Abhed, but they cannot see the Bhed. The others, the yogis, they are only seeing Bhed. So it is reconciled by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he gives the philosophy of Bheda Bheda, inconceivable oneness and duality. So the last verse that we discussed, the Krishna is summarizing that for the soul, there is neither birth. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. That one who does not take birth, there is no question of death. Because that takes birth is sure to die. We discussed that. And Prabhupada says in the purport, the final portion of the purport of the 20th verse, that only one who has become free from all material desires as well as lamentations by the grace of the Supreme understand the glories of the soul. Others will not. So how to perceive the presence of soul? That is a common sense approach. But that common sense is very uncommon. It still cannot be experienced. What is required? Required is the grace of the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says here. And what is the grace of the Supreme Lord? One is free from lamentation and material desires. Then one can understand the glories. But to take it further, Krishna gives another metaphor that we will see in this section. First, he gave the metaphor of a tenant and the house owner. So who is the tenant? Who is the tenant? The soul, which is occupying the body. And then Krishna told that this is the soul which pervades the entire body. But now Krishna will give another metaphor. So Krishna is explaining from various angles of views. So as the Kali-yugi man, whose intelligence, whose brain is very dull. Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagyahi upadita. How the verse begins? Kalo asmin yuge jana, manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagyahi upadita. But still, to make it evident, Krishna will give another metaphor that we will see in the 22nd verse. So let us first begin with the 21st verse, where Krishna says, Veda vinashinam nityam yoenam ajam avyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatyati hantikam. So he says Vedaha. Veda means to know. And where is the discussion starting from? What is the starting point? Arjuna was posing himself. He was posturing himself as a very learned man. And Krishna chastised him on this point, saying that you are not learned. So he says one who is in knowledge. So what is his understanding? What knowledge he has? Veda avinashinam nityam. He knows that the soul is indestructible and is always existing. And it is, the soul is ajam and avyayam. It is unborn and it is immutable. So, O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So Krishna is asking this question from Arjuna. Krishna has already inquired that how does the weakness has arisen in your heart? So Krishna is inquiring from him, your intelligence, where is your intelligence? This basic, very simple understanding you cannot comprehend. That which is unborn, which is indestructible, you are saying if you fight and you kill, and you will incur sin. So where is the question of killing when the soul proper is indestructible? So Prabhupada talks about, so this, there are many views to this, further understanding which Prabhupada gives, that because the soul is indestructible, that does not mean that somebody has the authority to kill the body. No. It will become evident. Prabhupada says Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. So violence, that does not mean because the soul is indestructible, it cannot be killed. One can kill the body because the body is temporary. No. Because every living entity is getting his body based on his karma. And he has to enjoy or suffer the quota of his karma which he has performed in his previous life. So similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with a person in knowledge. So Arjuna was very reluctant to fight because he thought that fighting will invoke violence, and violence will invoke killing, and killing is sinful. So, but one should know, as Prabhupada is saying, one who is in knowledge, he knows how things are to be applied for proper utility. So violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with a person in knowledge. Although the justice, and Prabhupada gives two analogies, he says that although the justice of peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the code of justice. So this is the proper utility. If capital punishment is given to a criminal, in a way it is also violence because it will terminate his bodily existence. But that is not violence. Why is it necessary? Some countries are debating. Some countries have even banned. You know what is capital punishment? Death sentence. Many countries, they have banned death sentence. But if a person who has performed evil karma, some bad karma, and if he is not punished by the law of the land, then he will be punished by the law of the nature. So for many forthcoming future lives, he will have to suffer the karmic reaction. So if a person who is sitting on as a judge, who is giving judgment, he cannot be found guilty to be invoking violence by killing a person because that person has committed some crime. So Prabhupada says, similarly, the justice of peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the code. In Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind. So this is the scripture. We are all Manushya. So where are we coming from? We are coming from Manu. Brahmaji created. Do we need an AC? We're getting cold. So what will happen in winter? Anyway, so Manu Samhita is for those who are in this human form of life. So Manu Samhita is for the civilized human beings who are following the religious principles. So it says this is the law book for mankind. It is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in the next life he will not have to suffer for the greater sin that he has committed. It's a very subtle aspect of understanding that we must know. If we do something wrong and we try to hide away or run away, don't think that we will be relieved of the reaction. It is very, very, prudent to receive the reaction immediately. Because if we try to avoid the reaction is unavoidable. According to the law of nature, according to the law of karma. And it will counteract, it will come to us with the compound interest. We see, I'm reminded of one episode that comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. Somehow, Maharaj Parikshit, when he went to the forest, he was passed by thirst and he lost his way. And he went to the hermitage of which Rishi? Shamik Rishi. Shamik Rishi, and Shamik Rishi was in meditation. And somehow it, flashed to Parikshit Maharaj that whether this sage is in meditation or he is, making a show of it. And he found a dead snake and coiled it around his neck and left. But as he left, he had this resentment in his heart that he did a mistake. And if you will read the appearance of Parikshit Maharaj, so while he was walking back, he was repenting. He was repenting that he committed a great blunder, an aparadh, a sinful act that on the meditative trance of a sage, he tried to shoulder him with a snake. And then he is praying to the providence that kindly give me the reaction. I must suffer for the wrong that I have done. He is repenting. Very much repentance is there from the heart of Parikshit Maharaj. And when he comes to know that the son of Shamik Rishi, Shringi, he curses Parikshit to meet the snake bird Takshak and be killed within 7 days. You know how he reacts? He says, good news. What he says? Good news. And you see how Kamsa reacts. Kamsa was to die with the hand of the seventh son. And Parikshit Maharaj was to die within 7 days. But Parikshit Maharaj says, good news. So this is very subtle law. So we should always be very, very vigilant. And to make mistakes or to, because of our imperfection, it is natural for us. But immediately we should repent. We should not try to hide it. Or we should not try to think that we will get away with it. Never. Never, ever. One past time I am reminded, I was hearing a few days back. One devotee came to Srila Prabhupada and he submitted to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, for so many years I am trying to do sincere service. I am trying to make my best effort. But I see devotees are not happy. They are still having some complaints against me. So Prabhupada said, don't worry. In your past life, you received many glories, which you did not deserve. So now receive the chastisement. So don't think that if we do something wrong, and we can run away. So here it is being said that the violence is also required. Why? If one has performed sinful activity, he must be punished. That is what the Kshatriyas are for. The Kshatriyas are to administer justice and to keep the citizens in a proper balanced way. So that no thieves and rogues are there. So if somebody does wrong, he must be punished by the law of the land. So here it is being said that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in the next life, he will not have to suffer for the greater sin that he has committed. The Prabhupada also speaks about the animal slaughter that the modern man is committing. He is killing millions of helpless animals. And what are this natural catastrophe which comes? We see millions of men, they die in one instance. This is the reaction of what we do. So as we sow, so shall we reap. There is no exception to this rule. This is the rule made by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Why? Because if he is hanged and if he is punished, he is relieved of the sin. And from the next life, he can have still the process of evolution. He can progress. But if he is not punished, then for many future life, he will have to go to the process of degradation and punishment. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for the supreme justice. And thus, Arjuna should follow the instructions, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate, the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. Then Prabhupada says, so for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. Very important that there must be authorization for any action. It depends on who is authorizing the action. The Prabhupada is talking about it. So if we are under the proper authority, if we are trying to conduct our life, conduct our occupational duties under spiritual authority, then there is no question of karmic reaction. It becomes karma free. And if they are ordering us, instructing us, or directing us and guiding us, then there is no further reaction coming. And it has proper utility. It has proper utility. Why? Because they are engaging us in Krishna's service. So any work which is performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, what it becomes? It becomes yagya. What is the verse? 3rd chapter, 9th verse. Yagyat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhana. So here Arjuna is skeptic. He is showing a hesitation of not fighting because with the fear of killing and incurring sin. But there is no question of sin when one is acting on the instructions of the Supreme or on the instruction of one who is representing the Supreme. And Prabhupada gives another example. He says the surgical operation is not meant to kill a patient, but to cure him. So many times we see the surgeons also, what do? They have to conduct an operation. They have to cut open many organs. Blood comes out. But they are not charged for committing any violence. Because the purpose is to cure, not to kill. Therefore, fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge. So there is no possibility of sinful reaction. So most importantly here, 2 aspects we can learn. Of course, that one who is in knowledge, he is not disturbed. He is always impeccable to perform his duty. He is not deviated. He is not distracted. Secondly, that if we are under the administration of the authority, then there is no sinful reaction. A very important aspect of this verse. And then Krishna gives another metaphor. That what is the connection with the soul and the body. So Krishna compares the body to a dress. Very famous verse to memorize. Vasam sijirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naro parhani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. So Krishna compares the body to the dress, to the garment. He says, as the garment becomes old and dilapidated, so what do? We discard the garment. And we take up the new dress or new garment. The Deepavali is coming, or Janmashtami is coming. So what we are looking for, we are wanting to have a new dress. We feel happy. We feel joyed, enthused to have a new dress. So Krishna is saying, as a person puts on new garment, Vasamsi is Vastra. From Vastra it is comes to Vasamsi. And Jirnani. Jirna means which is worn out, toned. If the old cloth is torn out, what do? We replace it. Jatha vihaya. Vihaya means to discard, to give it up. So we give up the old one to get a new one. Navani. Navani means new garment. And grihinati, one accepts. Shanvanti gayanti, grihinanti sadhava. Nara means a man. So similarly, a person who puts on new garment, giving up old one, the soul similarly accepts a new material body, giving up the old and useless one. So where is the reason for you to lament or to be disturbed or become imbalanced? So one who is situated in knowledge, one who is a dhira, Krishna said in the 13th verse, dhiras tatra na muhyati. One who is a sober person. Sober person is one who is situated in knowledge. He is not disturbed. Before also, if you see, Krishna said that the soul is in transient phase. It is not the destruction of the soul, but it is passing from one stage to another in the same body. Komaram yauvanam jara. And then he says, tatha dehantara praptis. And when the soul leaves, one should not be disturbed. So one puts on the new dress, he feels rejuvenated. He feels enlivened. Where is the cause for lamentation? Prabhupada speaks about it. That change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Because the soul transmigrates. So there is the theory of reincarnation. Even the modern scientists do not believe in the existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart. Have to accept continuous changes of body which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained. So Prabhupada talks about the first verse which he explained, Krishna is explaining. So there is transference or there is transition, not the termination. This is very important. It's transient, it is changing, but it is not being terminated. From the same body, it is changing from boyhood to youth and old age. And when the body becomes old, dilapidated, worn out, so it gets a new body. Where is the question of termination? So transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the super soul. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic. So how do we take a new dress? Supposingly, if we decide to take a new dress, so what determines that what kind of dress we will take? Very good. According to our paying capacity and according to our desire and taste. So similarly, what is the paying capacity for us? Yes, karma, our karma. That is the shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. Somehow it is not coming. If it will come, I will share. Karmana deva netrena jantu dehe upapatte. The karmana deva netrena jantu dehe upapatte. Ya pravishta udaram pumsareta ganashraya. So karmana deva netrena. So karma that we are performing, and it is under the deva netrena, under the jurisdiction of the demigods, who are the superintendent of this material world. Jantu deha upapatte. Jantu means the living entity. He gets a deha, body, upapatte, born, according to his karmana. So there it is being said, Prabhupada is explaining the same phenomena here. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mundaka Upanishad as well as the Shweta Upanishad, compares the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. This we have discussed. That we should have very clear distinction and understanding, at least theoretically. Of course, we can understand this subject matter theoretically. And after hearing it, after studying it, we should accept it. So what is distinct? That the body is distinct from the subtle body is distinct from the soul. And the soul is also distinct from the super soul. And both of them, the soul and the super soul, where are they situated? Where are they situated? In the heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam Deshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Maya. So Prabhupada talks about this references from Mundak Upanishad and Shweta Upanishad, that the soul and super soul are two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. Very interesting. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree. This is what the living entity in this material form of life does. He's trying to enjoy. He's trying to enjoy the material world, the material resources. And the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree. What are the fruits of the material tree? Okay. Enjoyment. Material enjoyment. While the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from one body to another. So this is the core reason that one has become disconnected with the super soul, or he has become oblivion of the existence of super soul. The Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body. But as soon as he agrees to accept, you see everywhere Prabhupada is saying, if he agrees. Why Prabhupada has to say so many times if he agrees? Why? Why he has to mention this if he agrees? The possibility is still disagree. He will still not agree. He's so much enamored, he's so much stubborn, that still he does not agree. That is why Prabhupada is very mercifully saying that if he agrees, so he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender into the Krishna for instruction. The subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentation. And who can understand that he is not his body, his soul, who is free from lamentation? So by the grace, if one takes to the path of accepting the Lord as supreme, his lamentation in life is over. And Prabhupada quotes this from Mundaka Upanishad and the Shweta Upanishad, very beautiful verse, very, very important verse. It says, Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno anishaya shochati muhyamana jushtam yada pashyati anyamisham asya mahimanam iti vita shokaha. So samane vrikshe. Saman means the common, and vriksha is on a tree. So both these birds are seated on the same branch of the tree. Samane vrikshe and purushaha nimagnaha. But the individual soul, he is trying to take the role of a purushaha. Purusha means the enjoyer. He is nimagna. Nimagna means he is completely immersed. And what is his conception? Anishaya. That there is no one else who is above him. Isha means one who is the controller. So Anisha means that he is thinking that he is under control. He is in control. He is in control of the fruits which are there on the tree. And he is muhyamanaya. While he is trying to enjoy the fruit, he is thinking that he is the master, he is the proprietor, he is the enjoyer of the fruits. He is the proprietor of the tree, so he can enjoy the fruits. So he is muhyamanaya. Muhyamanaya means he is in illusion. But his illusion can immediately be removed. How? Jushtam yada pashyati. That if he turns his face, he has turned his face off from the friend, which is on the same branch. But if he turns his face towards the super soul, Jushtam yada pashyati, and is anyam isham, and he is able to give up his conception of that he is the enjoyer or he is the proprietor. Anyam Isham. Isham means the controller or the proprietor. So who is the proprietor or controller? Super soul. Who is seated there? Similarly, in our heart, the soul is also residing and the super soul is also residing. But we have never ever, have you ever thought consciously that the super soul is there? Who is the master? Who is the controller? Who is the proprietor? Never. This thought even does not register. So this, both the Upanishads are speaking. He is saying, Jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham. Even once he looks towards the super soul. Asya mahimanayam. Immediately his heart will be filled with the mahima, with the glories of the Supreme Lord. Iti vita shokaha. And his lamentation will be over forever. Although the two birds are on the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness. Why the anxiety and moroseness is there? Because he is considering himself to be the enjoyer. He sees the fruit, and what he thinks that the fruit belongs to me. To enjoy the fruit is my birthright. And he attempts to eat and enjoy, but can he enjoy? He cannot enjoy. So what he experiences? Anxiety and moroseness or frustration. But in some way or the other, if he turns his face towards his friends, the Lord, and knows his glories. Very important. We have to try to turn our face towards the Lord. That is a verse in Chaitanya. It says, Krishna bhuliya ji bahirmukha. It becomes bahirmukha. Bahirmukha means he has turned his face away from Krishna. So as he turns his face towards Krishna, iti vita shoka. As soon as he takes a turn, the lamentation and moroseness in his life is on the path of termination. Iti vita shoka. At once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad-Gīta from him. And thus hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. So this is the solution for all of us. Clear, distinct. Just tell him I'll speak after some time. That if we want to terminate anxiety and lamentation and moroseness from our life, what we have to do? We have to turn our face towards Krishna. Again and again we are told to turn our face towards Krishna, but the default setting is such, we see for a second and then we turn back. Our setting is such that we are always facing Maya. We are interested in Maya. So Maya means one is in moroseness. So what one has to do? What does it mean to turn his face towards Krishna? What it means to turn his face towards Krishna? You stand in front of the Vigraha and just keep watching Krishna and do nothing and say, I have turned my face towards Krishna. That is the perfection of life. Now where anxiety is coming, moroseness is coming. What it means to turn his face towards Krishna? Understanding Bhagavad-Gīta and the glories of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad-Gīta is filled with the glories of the Supreme Lord. We can see. So Krishna is liberating Arjuna, and through Arjuna he is liberating all of us. He is giving an opportunity to all of us. So what we have to do in our life? What is the one resolution that we can draw if we want to be free from lamentation? What is that? What does it mean to turn our face towards Krishna? Is to hear the glories of Bhagavad-Gīta, as simple as that. That should be our eternal occupation. My teacher told me till the time we exist, this will be our service. That we will never ever leave Bhagavad-Gīta. This is there. Prabhupada says. Now he has turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad-Gīta from him. And thus hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. So hearing Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha Punyam, and it relieves one from all kinds of lamentation and distress. So don't leave Krishna Katha, leave everything else to hear Krishna Katha. Then we can be free from lamentation. Otherwise, we will continue in the life which is, filled with lamentation. So Arjuna is advised herein by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher, because they'll get new dress, new bodies. And what is the basis of the body that they will get? Is the basis of their karma. And what kind of karma they have performed? Very pious. Mahajana. Bhishmadev is Mahajan. And Dronacharya is first class Brahmana. So what they will get? They will get a superior body, new bodies. So he should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. And Prabhupada says another principle: one who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of all bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. Very important. Huh? So we see that obviously we will have to give up this body. And before we give up this body, we should be situated in this knowledge. We should be prepared. And then Krishna is explaining again that Nenam chindanti shastrani, Nenam dahati pavaka, Na chenam kledayantapo, Na shoshyati maruta. So Krishna is giving another viewpoint. He's saying that the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. You are thinking that you are one of the greatest archer. You have the prowess of such weapons. And you are thinking that you will use that weapons and kill. It will not be a success. Nenam chindanti shastrani. It is useless. All your prowess, all your martial art is all useless. None of your weapons can touch the soul. What to say of killing it? Nenam dahati pavaka. It cannot be burned by fire. When it is only the body which is burned, not the soul. Nor moistened by water, nor withered by wind. So under every situation, under any condition, it is indestructible, imperishable. So all kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, nuclear weapons, any weapon, this weapon, that weapon, are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc. In addition to the modern weapons of fire, even the nuclear, Prabhupada talks about it. Nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly there were other weapons made up of different types of material elements. Fire weapons are counteracted by water weapons. Interesting. Which are unknown to the modern science. Nor do the modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Tornado is that within water. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusionary energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual soul from the original supreme soul. Rather, the individual soul are eternally separated parts of the supreme soul, because they are atomic individual soul, eternally sanatana. So Prabhupada is explaining that this phenomena cannot be explained by those who are in the path of speculative knowledge, Jñānis or the Mayavadis. They are prone to be covered by the illusionary energy, and thus they became separated from the association of the Supreme Lord. how the living individuals have been separated. Prabhupada gives an example, just as the sparks of the fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. You have seen when there is a big fire? Have you seen the fire? Especially the wood fire. So what you see that the fire sparks, they keep coming out. And what happens? As the fire sparks leave the fire body, what it happens? It is extinguished. It loses its existence. The Prabhupada says, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varha Puran, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcel of the Supreme. What is another example Prabhupada gives? Sun and sun rays. Sun and sun rays. How many sun rays are there emanating from the sun? No count. Can anyone count? Can any scientist count? Is there any device to count? Not possible. So all these sun rays put together, can they equate the energy of the sun? Is it possible? No, not possible. Because every moment the sun is emanating so many rays. So similarly, the Supreme is compared to the sun and the living entity is compared to the sun ray. They are eternally so according to Bhagavad-Gīta also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate entity, as it is evident from the teachings of Lord to Arjuna. Which verse is this? That there is always separate individual existence. Yes, very good. Very good. Na tu evaham jatu nasam na tvam neme janadhipa na cheva na bhavishyami sarve vayam ataha param. Very good. Yeah. That they existed in the past and they will exist even in the future. What to speak of present? They are already there. So the individuality of the soul can never be compromised. Either he is in conditioned stage or in separate, and his subordination can never be changed. That Krishna will speak in the next verse. So Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. Krishna further speaks. In a way, it is a review of what Krishna has already spoken. He says, Achedyoyam adayoyam akledyo ashosha evacha nitya sarva gata sthanur achaloyam sanatana. Achedyoyam. Ched means that you can pierce or that you can break. It cannot be pierced or it cannot be breakable. It is unbreakable. Same, Jnanam Chindanti Shastrani. The weapon cannot kill it or pierce it. The soul is unbreakable and it is insoluble. Akledyoyam. Clay means that it can be submerged in water. It cannot be submerged in water. So that is why that is not a proper analogy. So the person, when he dies, the body is only floating. The soul is not there. The soul has already left. The soul cannot be merged in the water. It can neither be burned nor dried. He is everlasting. Then Krishna uses this adjectives. He's saying Nitya is eternal. It is Sarvagataha. Very important. Sarvagata. What does it mean, Sarvagata? What it means, all pervading. It is all pervading like the super soul. It is present in everyone. What it means? Sarvagata. What it means, it can be present anywhere. No, still not proper. Yes, what it means? Sarvagata. The Sarvagata is all pervading. Who is all pervading? Super soul. So how the Jiva can be all pervading? No. So along with super, that is for only, it is all pervading. No, it is only pervading to the limits of the body. It is not all pervading. So why Krishna is using this word sarvagata? All pervading, what it means? Understand, try to understand. Does it mean it is all pervading? All pervading, you understand what is all pervading now? It is present everywhere. Yeah. We said omnipresence. The super soul is present everywhere. But is the jiva present everywhere? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. All pervading means in entire creation, in entire existence. The life form pervades in entire creation. It is there in the every part of the creation. Like the scientists, they say they went to the moon, but did they find any living symptom there? No. What they found? What did they found on the moon? What did they found on the moon? Rocks and sand. No living symptom. Demigods reside there. They cannot go to moon. This is not possible. In this body, by any machine, they cannot reach moon. How to reach moon? Krishna will speak in the further chapters. One has to have that pious credit. Then he can go to the moon. Like somebody has to go to America. What he needs to have? Visa. Unless and until he receives a visa from the American embassy, can he enter the territory of America? We are so foolish. We are thinking we have entered moon, as if moon is our property. Moon is the property of the residents of the demigods. So unless and until one comes to become a demigod, how can he enter the moon planet? Where people go, those who want to profusely enjoy. What is there in the moon? Moon has so much of nourishment that it gives life and juice to all the vegetation. So how can it have sand? They have never gone to the moon, and they are now confessing also, accepting also. Anyway. So Krishna is saying that the jiva, so this is the characteristic, the quality of the jiva, that it is nitya, it is eternal, it is everlasting, it is sarvagata. That means in the entire creation of the Supreme, the living entities are there. The living entities are there even in the fire. The living entities are, of course, there in the water, on earth, on sky, everywhere. Wherever there is creation, the living entities are there. That is why it is called sarvagata. And it is sthanur. That is unchangeable. What it means, sthanur? Those who are regular students of Bhagavad-Gīta should know. Don't speculate. You won't be able to give the right answer. Pradeep, those who have heard, they will be able to speak. What does sthanur mean? Unchangeable. And again, to reinforce that, Krishna uses achaloyam. Achala means it is unchangeable and it is immovable. Thus see, unchangeable, immovable, all pervading. What can you make out? That which is unchangeable and immovable, how can it be all pervading? Bolo. Suman is not watching today. Suman, why this disease of video off is there? Again, most of the people are off with their videos. You have to turn your face. Prabhupada is writing. Don't try to turn your face off. The disease is there for many, many millions of births. It still wants to continue. That means the subordinate position. The jiva is under every situation, every circumstances, it is subordinate. It is unchangeable. The constitutional position of the jiva can never be changed. It will always remain subordinate. And it cannot be changed. And achaloyam sanatana. So Prabhupada says this individual soul is unbreakable, achhadeyoyam, insoluble, akledeyoyam. It is adhayoyam. It cannot be burned. And it is nitya sarvagata sthanur. He is everlasting, present everywhere in the creation, unchangeable from his subordinate position, immovable from his being dependent on the Lord. He is always dependent. He can never be independent. That he cannot reverse that situation. And he is eternally the same. Eternally what? He is subordinate. Let us see what Prabhupada says in the purport. All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit whole. And he remains the same atom eternally without change. This is what we started this course. That for the asad, spiritual, which is non-spiritual, that is the body, that there is no endurance. And of the eternal, that there is no change. So Krishna is explaining that it cannot be changed. The theory of monoism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. Homogeneously means it cannot merge. It cannot become the same. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual path in the effulgent ray of the Supreme Personality. But the intelligent soul enters into the spiritual planet to associate with the personality of Godhead. The word Sarvagata, all pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. So wherever the creation is there, there is the existence of the living entities. That is why we have 8,400,000 species of life. Modern scientists, by any estimation, cannot fathom that. Because they do not know that there are 14 planetary systems. And in every planetary system, there are the living entities. So there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on land, in water, in air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable, because it is clearly stated that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. So the suitable body is given. Like we live on which planet? We live on Earth. So what kind of bodies we have? That the proportion of Earth is more in our body. But if we are told to live in water, it will be very incompatible for us. But those who are aquatics, in their body, the proportion of water is more. Those who fly in the sky, in their body, the proportion of air is more. So similarly, Krishna has created, this is the perfection of his creation, that in every aspect of his creation, the living entities are there. That is why it is said, Brahmand Brahmite Kaun Bhagyavan Jeev. So we have, traveled and traversed in so many species of life, in so many planets, in so many life forms. That is what Prabhupada is saying, that there are no doubt that the living entities are also there in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word Sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. But I don't think anyone can dare to sell land on sun. They have tried. Cheaters get cheated. People are buying also. If you go to the internet and search, I did a search many, many years back. I found many companies are selling land on moon. And there are many foolish people who are buying. Then Krishna again reinforces this, says, we'll take this as the last verse. Then next we will take from the next time. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvenam nanushochitum arhasi. Avyaktaha. Avyakta is invisible. Avyakta also means that indescribable. Both. One cannot explain about the soul and one cannot see the soul. It is avyaktoyam. Why it is avyaktoyam? Invisible, indescribable, because it is achintyoyam. Achintya means it is beyond the human perception. It is inconceivable. It is so infinitesimal that it cannot be perceived by any human effort. And it is avikaryoyam. Very important. So we are studying Kshetra. In Kshetra, what are there? Vikar. There are Shad Vikars. In the body, there are 6 transformations. But in the soul, there is no question of. Please mute. Someone. Devadatta, I think your microphone is on. Okay. So there is no question of any change or transformation in the soul. It is avikarya. And then Krishna says, Tasma, therefore, it is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Immutable means that which can be measured or that can change. So for the soul, there is no vikar. There is no question of any change. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So again and again, Krishna is enlightening Arjuna and forcing him to perform his duty, not to be bewildered by ignorance. So as described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that it cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. It is not so that it is invisible. Those whose consciousness is elevated, they can see the soul proper. They don't see the body, or they don't see the outer covering. One Srila Prabhupada, he was invited in San Francisco by some, hippies who used to live far away from San Francisco in a farm. And they used to grow bananas. And somehow they had a store which was near to our center in San Francisco. And they used to give bananas for offering. But with a condition that the banana peel has to be returned back. Interesting offer, huh? Will you accept or you will reject? If somebody tells you कि आप केले ले लो, लेकिन छिलके वापस कर देना, so what you will do? Will you accept or you will reject? Yes, no? Huh? You will accept because we are interested in the fruit, we are not interested in the peel. So anyway, they were the drug addict also. So what they used to do, they used to burn the banana peel. And that smoke which used to come out from that banana peel, that used to give them some kind of kick. So they were all experimenting, all kind of nonsense. And they were also experimenting that in their farm, they were growing bananas, but they were staying completely barren. Barren in a sense that they were not using any clothes. When Prabhupada reached there, he saw them digging. They were digging some potato or some cultivation. But Prabhupada did not see their bare bodies. What did Prabhupada see? Prabhupada saw the soul which is suffering. So here it is being said that it cannot be seen even by the powerful microphone, most powerful. Therefore, it is invisible. But if the consciousness is elevated, one is Krishna conscious, then he can see the soul. Which is the verse? Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavihastine sunicheva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. So how can one come to the platform of being Samadarshi when he sees the soul? He does not see the bodily differences. So as far as the soul, the existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti. So it's very important. Very, very important. So by any effort or by any amount of estimation or manipulation, one can have no knowledge or comprehension of the acceptance of soul or understanding of soul. Here Prabhupada is saying. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti. So where it is being evidenced here in Bhagavad-Gīta. So how to know about the soul is to accept the statements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul. Although it is fact by perception, there are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Right or wrong? Otherwise, you say, I'll do a DNA test. As many males are there in the population, I will find out that my genes and the genes of my father, they will be the same. His life will be over. So Prabhupada gives this example, the very emphatic example, that just on the authority of the mother, it is proved who is the father. No other evidence is required. So on the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what we have to do, we have to accept. Similarly, there is no other understanding, there is no other source of understanding of the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept it. Unlike the body changes, there is no change in the soul as eternally unchangeable. The soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Very beautifully explained. The Supreme Soul is infinite. It is unlimited. And the atomic soul is extremely limited, infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinite soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways, just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. And Prabhupada gives a very glorious statement. He says, repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. So if you will see, many of the characteristics of the soul which Krishna is explaining here, it is a repetition, which he has explained already before. But why is he again and again explaining? So that we can understand the subject matter without error. Guru Maharaj says that repetition is required to drive the point home. Understand? Repetition is required to drive the point home. That the conception can be drilled into our heart. So repetition is required. That is why Abhyas Yogena Tato. One has to repeat Abhyas Yoga. Okay, it is 9, so I will stop here. So what are your doubts and dilemmas or questions to what Krishna is explaining? बोलिए, any doubt, question, दिनेश जी? Boring लग रहा है क्या? It is very fascinating to hear about the soul. Krishna will speak. The next verses he will speak. आप first time आए हैं? You have come for the first time? Studying here in IARI? Okay, welcome. What's your name? Krishna Chaitanya. You have really, enthused all of us. Krishna Chaitanya. Chaitanya means one who is in supreme consciousness. And who is the supreme consciousness? Is Krishna. Is supremely conscious. So how much your consciousness has been able to register what we discussed? Yeah. So we are explaining from the second chapter. This is explaining about the basic understanding of the spiritual aspect. That we are not just matter. Matter takes birth and it dies. But we are beyond matter. We are the soul. So how to understand? Okay, let me ask question. If you do not have question, then let me ask question. Yes, Mamta.
Prabhuji, 22 sloka mentioned that of these two words, although they are in the same quality.
Yeah. So many times I have explained.
हम तो बाहर के श्लोकास में उसको डिफरेंस कर रहे हैं सुपर सुपर बोलने का डिफरेंस है but यहाँ पे लिखा है कि although they are in the same in quality.
Same in quality. What is the quality of the living entity? Jiva. He is eternal. He is eternal. And is the super soul, is he not eternal? Same in quality. The super soul is individual. Is the Jiva not individual? Individual. Individuality can never be changed. They cannot merge. There is no question of getting into merge. So there is no Sayuja Mukti. So quality is same, but is the quantity same? Prabhupada gives many examples. Like you take a gold particle from the gold mine. If you do a laboratory test, is the characteristic and quality not the same? It will be same. If you take a drop of water from the ocean, is the quality and characteristics not the same? Same. But the difference in the quantity. Difference in the quantity. So Prabhupada is saying that there is same in quality, but not in quantity. Yes, Ganesh. You raise your hand. Ganesh, I am asking you. Right? Bolo, if there is some question, pucho. We have no questions. The subject matter has still not touched our. You have question or you don't have a question? ये मत सोचो कि हम डिवोटी हो गए तो हम कुछ भी करेंगे और हम कार्मिक रिएक्शन से फ्री हो जाएंगे. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं. Karmic reaction, how much we will be free? Krishna says, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam satheva bhajami. If we are 10% surrender, how much karma is been freed? 10%. If we are 1% surrender, how much karma is free? 1%. Then, if we are 100% surrender, 100% karma free. Hare Krishna. Immovable in a sense that it. Yeah. See, try to understand what Krishna is explaining here. It is Nitya, eternal, Sarvagata. It exists in the entire creation, in various life forms, even in the sun planet, in every sphere of material existence. Nitya Sarvagata, it is Sthanur. Sthanur means it is unchangeable. What it is unchangeable? That it is infinitesimal and the supreme is infinite. That position cannot be changed. From infinite, it cannot become infinitesimal, it cannot become infinite. So there is this theory of the Jñānis that once we are liberated, we become the same. Soham. It is not possible. And also it is subordinate. Not only it is infinitesimal, it is subordinate to the supreme. So that position can never be changed. He can never become supreme. Understood? Yeah. Thank you. No, how it is same? How it is? I've explained. Unchangeable means that it will remain subordinate. Yeah, it is always subordinate. Yeah, and it is infinitesimal. It is infinitesimal and it is subordinate both. Yeah. So the Supreme remains supreme in every situation, because there is this theory of monoism which says that in the conditioned stage, we are subordinate, but in the liberated stage, we are same. Not possible. Krishna dispels that misconception. It is achaloyam. It cannot be changed. The subordinate position of the jiva cannot be changed. In a sense that he can become the master of the Supreme Lord. How? By his love. He can bind Krishna. That Mother Yashoda did. But constitutionally, the position cannot change. The constitutional position will not change. Okay, anyone from the online side? Any question? Or the concept is clear? More importantly, what Prabhupada is emphasizing, that we have to accept the authority of the Supreme Lord and accept what he is speaking here. Then there is only possibility of having any understanding. And what we have to do? We have to turn our face towards Krishna. And how do we turn our face towards Krishna? By hearing Bhagavad-Gīta. And by hearing Bhagavad-Gīta and applying Bhagavad-Gīta, the glories of the Supreme Lord will manifest in our heart. It is an automatic process. We don't have to do anything externally. And if we do not do this, then our life is same with shoka and moha. Moha means illusion and shoka means lamentation. So that is why Krishna is telling Arjuna that where is the need for any kind of lamentation in your existence? Perform your duty and you will be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. So how one can become happy? When he performs his duty. If he does not perform his duty, he will be punished. He will be punished by the law of nature. He will be punished by the law of karma. There is no question of experiencing any happiness. So Bhagavad-Gīta, it enforces us to perform our duty, to perform our service. Prabhupada said in one of the purports, I think it is in the 14th purport, Prabhupada said, if you would have done this study, Prabhupada repeats that. Right? One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only, one can liberate himself from the clutches of Maya illusion. How to do that? Simply hear. Hear with the aspiration to apply. Thank you very much. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, उपस्थित सभी भक्तवृंद की जय।